Hey, how's it going, old schoolers? You are Kicking It Old School. I'm your host, Russell J.S., formerly Dr. Old School. I want to do a video that I've been wanting to do for a while. Well, first and foremost, you know I'm a rhythm guitar player who's never been in a band. 42 years old, I'm looking to get one together. I will eventually. And, wanting to find all the different covers that I want to do, because you start out, I guess you have to be a cover band first. But what I want to do on this video in particular is I want to go over the music that changed my life in my teen years. I mean, changed my life totally forever and a day. The time is between 1991 to 1993. One of the things I remember about that time was in 1991, that summer, Terminator 2 became the big blockbuster. A plethora of new and old rockers came out of the woodwork making new albums. I mean, wow, and they literally dominated MTV for the moment. I mean, I can remember the 1992 Music Awards. You had Def Leppard, the Black Crowes, Guns N' Roses, Metallica, Nirvana, Pearl Jam. And of course, sadly, in 1991, the world said goodbye to Freddie Mercury when he passed away due to AIDS. But what I want to go ahead and touch base with is I want to share with you the albums that changed my life forever. Some influenced me to start playing music, and some, well, it made me appreciate hard rock and heavy metal more. I mean, I started loving hard rock music back in 1987 when I was 9. Whatever was popular on the radio at the time, my dad had a restaurant back in the late 80s where he ran the bar, and he would yell at me constantly because when I had extra quarters from playing video games, I'd sneak in the bar room and I would put on such songs as Poison's Talk Dirty to Me, Kiss's Crazy Crazy Nights, Bon Jovi, Living on a Prayer, Motley Crue, Girls, Girls, Girls. And funny thing was, I wouldn't even be in the bar. I'd be in his office in the back of the restaurant doing homework, and somebody else would put on those songs, and it's like, gee, how can I be in the office way in the back of the restaurant and be in the bar at the same time? But what happened was in the 90s, when I came to my teen years, you had some of the rockers that had been around for a while, and then you had a new form of music that was hitting the mainstream from Seattle. And some of those CDs I have right here. Without further ado, let's check these bad Oscars out, shall we? The first CD I have here is Nirvana's Nevermind. I remember when the video for Smells Like Teen Spirit first came on MTV. My God, I felt like how my parents must have felt in the mid-60s when they first saw the Beatles on the Ed Sullivan Show. I wanted to get an electric guitar, but my dad wouldn't let me. He thought I should, if I want to learn how to play guitar, start off on an acoustic first. Otherwise, I can forget about it. But so badly, I wanted an electric guitar. So badly. But yeah, this CD right here, Smells Like Teen Spirit, In Bloom, Lithium, Come As You Are, Drain You. It's a perfect combination of old style heavy metal and old punk rock. I wanted a guitar because of Kurt Cobain. The way he played it, he didn't care what people thought. He just didn't give a rip. And this CD right here, this was the first actual album that I bought with my own money on CD from doing chores around the house or, good marks in school. Second on the list, now like I said, maybe I didn't mention Van Halen because Jump was another one that I put on my dad's jukebox in the restaurant. He'd get mad. But I learned to appreciate this band even more when I saw the video for the first single off this album. And, it had some other good stuff. like I said, I dug deep into their earlier stuff and became a fan. Number 2 on this list would be Van Halen for Unlawful Carnal Knowledge. Everybody would always call this as a different album. I'm not going to say it. But I saw the first single off this album on MTV for the video for the song Right Now. And I thought it was a powerful statement that they went ahead, instead of, girls dancing around wearing next to nothing, they wanted to go ahead and touch on what's going on in the world at that time. Right now, youth is king. Right now, people who are breathing or, who can't read or breathe are bumming with the cigarette packs. Ironically enough, Eddie Van Halen was a heavy, I don't know if he still is, but he was a heavy smoker, cigarette smoker back then. Especially smoking those Camels where he lost a third of his tongue years later. But this was always, to me, this was probably one of the greatest Van Halen records to date. With Sammy Hagar on the vocals. I mean, there's a big political thing. I guess we can call it political. I don't know. But, everybody has that argument. Who was the better frontman in Van Halen? Sammy Hagar or David Lee Roth? I mean, as far as I'm concerned, even though I go more towards the Sammy Hagar era, to me it doesn't matter. I mean, the band could have consisted of, Alex, Eddie, and Mike doing instrumentals, like a power trio in this, kind of like in the style of Jimi Hendrix or, Cream or Rush. But this album right here, I appreciated Van Halen even more than I ever did. Because at this time I was getting to know like who all these artists were, and I would hear the songs from 5 years before, and I didn't know who the artists really were, but I learned who they were. Like, I learned who Aerosmith was, everything. This one, number 2. Number 1, they released 2 parts. A lot of people will debate on, they released 2 parts of this album. Some people will say that it's, all one album that's sold separate. Others will say that they're 2 totally different albums. Both versions, had plethora of hit singles. But I can remember one of the songs that I saw, on MTV, one of the videos, I wanted to get the CD, one of the 2 CDs immediately. And my mother saw that parental advisory, that infamous sticker that you used to see. Well, you still see to this day. Parental advisory explicit lyrics. Thanks to Tipper Gore and all the senator wives who wanted to ban music. But I ended up, after a couple weeks of literally begging my mom and dad to, let me have the 1 CD. I mean, I had to literally beg them for it. I mean, I had to show my mother the one video where they had the wedding theme, because my mother always loves, stuff with themes of a wedding. So then my mother went ahead and let me go and get it. So number 3 on this list will be Guns N' Roses, Use Your Illusion 1. Now, besides November Rain and Don't Cry, there were some really good ones off of this, like Double Talkin' Jive, Dust and Bones, Live and Let Die, Dead Horse, The Garden, Garden of Eden. I mean, a lot of other good songs that came off of this CD. And, I had this CD the first few months, and then my mother was hearing from her friends, hey, you gotta kind of watch what he's listening to, and my mother kind of followed suit. She wanted to read the lyrics to this CD, and there she was reading all the lyrics with the bad language, and I said, Mom, I can't believe you're saying that. And she goes, well, I can't believe you listened to this garbage. And she was going to go ahead and make a decision on, no more Guns N' Roses. I could keep this CD, but no more Guns N' Roses. But, there was a lot of things, like no Ozzy, no AC/DC, because that was all devil music. But after a while, she did warm up. She just wanted to check to make sure I wasn't listening to stuff that she felt I shouldn't have been listening to. Now, number 4, speaking of Use Your Illusion, Guns N' Roses Use Your Illusion 2. In my opinion, this album was the better of both Use Your Illusion 1 and 2. I mean, you had the songs like Civil War, you had 14 Years, Yesterdays, their version of Knocking on Heaven's Door, Get in the Ring, You Could Be Mine, Estranged, and Locomotive and Pretty Tied Up. You know, those were also good songs besides the hits. But I had to get this one, I had to show them the video of You Could Be Mine, which the song was used in the movie Terminator 2 Judgment Day. And the video was awesome, where Arnold Schwarzenegger plays the Terminator going after Guns N' Roses. But, you know, this is probably my 4th copy of this CD, because 1, I lost my cassette version, somebody stole it from me, and 2, the other cassette version, I played it so much it warped, and the 3rd, my ex-fiance got her hands on that, along with the other CDs that I left behind when we split. But to me, this was the pinnacle. Both these CDs right here, these albums, are the pinnacle of Guns N' Roses' career. Appetite was a great warm-up, Appetite for Destruction, but these two right here, they really set the bar for Guns N' Roses. Now, moving on to number 5. I remember when I first heard this band, I heard a lot of their 80s stuff, and they were really big in the 70s. And, you know, like I had never heard their 70s stuff, and then one time I saw an old photo of them, and then I saw a photo of what they currently looked like at that time, and thought, you know, why don't these guys, you know, do this again? And one of the songs off this CD was also, you know, on the soundtrack to Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey, which was one of my favorite movies at the time. This next one, where I really appreciated this band even more, Unholy, Revenge by Kiss. They even dedicated this album to the memory of Eric Carr, you know, the drummer who passed away from cancer, who replaced Peter Criss in 1980. Produced by Bob Ezrin, who also produced one of their biggest selling albums, Destroyer, in '76, and not so much selling music from The Elder of '81. But this contains the track I was just mentioning, God Gave Rock and Roll to You, songs like Unholy, Take It Off, Car Jam 81. Yeah, Car Jam 81. But, you know, a lot of other stuff. Domino, that one song that Gene Simmons did, and Heart of Chrome. This was probably one of the baddest, awesomest albums Kiss had put out in a long time. And then number 6, now we're getting heavier. I've seen a lot of their t-shirts. I saw a lot of kids in school wearing their t-shirts, and I was really wanting to get into heavy metal even more than I ever was. But I didn't know where to start as far as buying shirts, because there was a time where if you wore a band's shirt, you had to know at least 5 songs by that band and not the current 5 hits off the current album. Otherwise, you got a beat down and literally had the shirt pulled off your back and taken from you because they felt you weren't worthy of wearing that shirt. But this thrash band in particular, it helped their career out to go through the mainstream. They had been around at this time 10 years. And this album really helped them in the mainstream, and they're one of the biggest bands in the world, right next to Kiss and right next to AC/DC and Van Halen right now. Metallica's self-titled Black Album. Now, I actually, after all these years, this is my 3rd copy. I found it used at an FYE store at my local mall in Fort Myers. This album right here, I actually listened to it in its entirety for the first time in a long time. And there's actually some really good songs like Holier Than Thou and The God That Failed, My Friend of Misery. I mean, to listen to this album, you know, other than the big hit singles that we all know that came off of this, I mean, listen to it all the way through. I mean, it is really a killer album. I mean, I got more into Metallica. I never became like a real big, huge Like, I didn't jump on the bandwagon. I liked their music, but, I wasn't like, oh, Metallica, Metallica. No. I mean, they were just another band to me. And, they're a good band. I'd still listen to them. But yeah, I listened to this whole entire CD for the first time in years. And there's a lot more, I mean, just like Load, there's a lot of good songs off of Load. And, but this was the pinnacle that put Metallica on the mainstream, made them household names. I mean, everybody and their mother listened to Metallica by 1992 and 91 and 92. And then the next one on the list, I was actually more into these guys than I was into Metallica. I mean, I actually proclaimed that maybe they were a little bit more heavier and a little less corporate than what, Bob Rock was trying to make Metallica into. But this album made me appreciate, thrash metal even more. And, just by the hard-driven drums, the guitars, and the vocals of, the songs, it was like, ugh. I look no further. One of my favorite CDs from that time. Megadeth Countdown to Extinction. I listened to this whole entire, this is my second copy. I lost a lot of CDs over the years due to people I trusted and, failed relationships and such. But, like songs like, yeah, you had like Foreclosure of a Dream, Sweating Bullets, what is it, Symphony of Destruction? One of my favorites is Countdown to Extinction, how driven it is, and, Sweating Bullets, and, I mean, this was one of the heaviest CDs I ever obtained in my collection as a teenager. And then the next one on the list, right there with that whole Seattle sound that was an impact on me, I mean, I had people tell me, oh, they're going to go corporate, they suck, don't listen to them, they're not heavy enough, but they were part of that whole Seattle scene that was really big, like, again, Nirvana, Alice in Chains, Soundgarden, but this one CD in particular, and this is my one copy that I had, with the exception of my cassette copy, that I would obtain later from a girl. This album, I kind of get a glimpse of it being like, what if Jimmy Page and Jimi Hendrix and Jim Morrison all, kind of left their respective acts for a moment and collaborated together, and they got together with a different bass player and a different drummer. I'd say you'd look no further, you would have Pearl Jam. From their debut album, 10, again, this is another one where you had some good hit singles that, radio just played the living daylights out of. Like Even Flow, Alive, and Jeremy. But my two favorite, actually I got a couple favorites off of this. Oceans is a really good song. I like Porch, and I like Black. And, it kind of has that classic Led Zeppelin meets Jimi Hendrix with Jim Morrison as a lead vocalist kind of vibe with me. It has a really good sound to it. I mean, the next two Pearl Jam albums, Versus and Vitalogy, would be pretty good, and I kind of fell off the radar with Pearl Jam after that. But, this one right here, I mean, the Seattle movement, right next to loving heavy metal and punk rock, was really, really taking form in me. Like I said, that time, Red Hot Chili Peppers, I mean, Ozzy Osbourne came out with his first CD where he was sober for the first time. He was off the drugs and the booze. I think the most he did was smoke cigarettes. But, everybody remembers that No More Tears. I used to have that, and once again, I lost that. But, this album, it's got a good sound to it, good rockin' sound, kind of like, again, classic rock vibe. And the last one off this, which has really been a big influence in me playing music, I first caught their video on Beavis and Butthead, and I thought it was a great sound, not bad for four chicks, for four girls, and I thought I had a crush on them for a while. L7 Bricks Are Heavy. Now, besides the two songs, Pretend We're Dead and List, there's a lot of good songs on here, like, I don't know, Monster and Mr. Integrity. I borrowed this off the library. This is a really good find right here. I mean, you got four women who are kind of like, they even though they were from California, they were kind of, lumped in with the whole grunge movement, but they sounded more heavy metal and punk. Like a lot of influences I have would be like bands like that, like say Black Flag or the Misfits. Those bands, and Anthrax. I mean, this kind of has that vibe to it too. And another album that changed my life, where I became a huge fan, and their rhythm guitar player, they came out with their first live album in I don't know how many years, AC/DC Live. That was a CD that changed my life. Angus was just like, wow, like crazy devilish schoolboy type. But, I don't have that CD with me right now. It's out in Mustang Sally in the disc changer. But these are the albums that really, spoke to me in a sense, that kind of gave me that, where I wanted to go in life, who I wanted to be. I was finding my identity through this music. Because it's kind of hard, when your parents are trying to get you to listen to the pop stuff and, the whole clean cut thing, and it's not your forte. They're trying to get you to play sports or, get involved in clubs, and, none of it is your whole thing. Anyway, I just wanted to make a video, and I also want to thank you all. I have made my goal for right now, 40 subscribers. Thank you. Mr., whoever you are that subscribed, you're the 40th. Thank you so much. It's a celebration, and, I guess I was wrong. This is my 50th video that I've been doing for YouTube. But I go ahead and leave you right now. If you're new to the channel, subscribe. Feel free, subscribe, hit a like, leave a comment, tell all your friends, and, I'm going to be back again soon with another video where I'm going to go ahead and watch some, this week I'm going to binge watch on some smaller old movie franchises. Anyway, this is your old pal Russell J.S. wanting to wish you Godspeed, and may the Force be with you always.